Well, the haters gonna hate, 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 and the fakers gonna fake, 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 baby. I'm just gonna making luck, a Dominion podcast.
Down in Africa.
Yeah, just like that,
Welcome
man.
to Making Luck, a Dominion podcast. A Dominion endgame.
How you doing, Wandering Winder?
I'm doing all right. Down in Africa. Don't sue me.
How was it kind of?
Oh, I wasn't talking to you. I was talking to our prodigious listener base.
I don't think they could sue you if they tried.
I think they could probably figure out a way, but that's neither here nor there.
They would have no idea who to sue. I know your name, but I don't think I could find you to sue you. And I don't think anyone else knows your name.
I think you could if you really wanted to. I'm pretty sure.
Maybe. I don't know.
Why am I saying this to our listeners? Adam, cut this out.
You know, whenever someone says "cut this out,"
that means it's definitely getting included, probably as like the Easter egg bit.
Yeah, that's exactly what I was gonna say.
Yeah, I know.
Well. Anyway, this is a podcast about Dominion, which is a card game that we play.
Oh, play. Yeah.
Yeah,
mm-hmm.
and we
it's
like
true.
It. Yeah. And this episode is about one of those cards.
The main topic is, but in a way in which it relates to all of the other cards to some extent.
Yeah. I mean, that's kind of like all of the episodes, really, and all of life, if you really think about it.
I would disagree with that in two ways. One, some episodes aren't about like specific cards at all. They could be about like more general topics.
Yeah, but those general topics as they relate to all of the cards.
Possibly. Yeah. And two, I don't think all of life relates to cards.
It definitely does. Everywhere I go,
experience.
Everywhere I go, I see like Dominion stuff. Like I saw this billboard for something called the Rug Bazaar, and I was like, "Oh, Dominion! Woo! 2 actions and $1 and a card."
But it's not $1, woo! Adam. It's a coin.
A peso.
Well, I mean, I don't know. Different people have different currencies at different places and times.
A doubloon. A guilder.
Yeah. A bob. Actually,
$1.
You know, I made a comment to you not that long ago about what's so special about Phil. Have you ever been to the Bob Harmonic? But a bob is actually a term for money, or used to be in the United Kingdom, of Great Britain and Northern Ireland.
TIL.
And we talked about said United Kingdom last week, if you remember.
Oh, how could I forget?
We got some feedback on that Queendom comment. Do you recall that feedback?
Oh yeah, I remember making that delicious thumbnail.
Oh, and then I remember that there was like this weird direction that it went in. So, Welcome to Making Luck.
This is the best intro ever.
I tried to forget that, and now I've just reminded myself. Ripperoo.
Yeah, so last episode, it was on Treasurer.
Yeah, and we had a kingdom which included Treasurer, which we played a bit.
Yeah.
You wanna describe what cards were in said kingdom, Adam Horton?
Yeah, I got it. It's Apothecary, Native Village, Settlers, Steward, Swindler, Procession, Salvager, Distant Lands, Idol, Treasurer, and we had Triumph and Palace. One more time for our audio-only listeners. Apothecary, Native Village, Settlers, Steward, Swindler, Procession, Salvager, Distant Lands, Idol, Treasurer, and we had Triumph and Palace.
And of course, the Settlers pile is a split pile, and underneath those 5 settlers are 5 bustling villages.
Oh, yeah. That's a thing, I guess.
It is a thing.
Yeah.
It didn't really come up, but it could.
Really?
Yeah, so I talked about like, I'm going to mess you up with Swindler and play some kind of money-ish thing with some Swindler and a Treasurer and get some palace points and buy some provinces. And I played that against you once, and I won the game because I got very lucky, and you misplayed a bit.
I decided to just start doing random things at the end. I think
Yeah,
both of us were really tired.
I was like, I'm gonna do this thing, and I'm like, okay, I'm in decent position, and then like a turn or two later, I realized Adam can do anything he wants and win here, and you did like the one thing that you wanted that didn't quite win. So that was cool.
Yeah, but I think I made I made my point.
Yeah,
I
it was like a turn or two before I won that game, and I was like, well, I'm pretty convinced. And you're like, of what? I'm like, that your thing is way better than mine, even though I'm gonna win this game.
Well, okay, to be fair, I did get some really bad draws, and I also did
Yeah,
some kind of dumb stuff.
yeah,
So I was like 2 or 3 turns slower than what I really should have been.
for
Uh,
sure, Z's.
but also, I think it's important. It's funny because the last episode was about Treasurer, and I
Yeah,
think there are some pretty decent points to be made about Treasurer. I think
yeah,
in particular when you were playing that money-ish thing, the first
yeah.
thing you did the first time you played a Treasurer was take the key.
Well, which is a lot better when you weren't really getting treasure against me.
Well,
'Cause
yeah,
then I had an extra money every turn, and I could start. I had like 4 or 5 provinces before you scored it all, which totally didn't matter because triumph. But
yeah, and I also think it matters because that's not a deck that you particularly care about trashing the coppers super fast in. Not because
yeah,
of Palace, but rather because you want extra money that
well,
turn
I mean,
and on your next few turns.
Palace is a reason to not trash like your 6th copper, maybe, because you'll get a couple of sets of Palace points, but you're not going to get 7 silvers and 7 golds.
I don't think you were anywhere close to that, right?
No, I think
Yeah.
I got either 2 or 3 sets of Palace points.
Nice. So yeah, I think I mean that principle about treasure and the fact that like it was one of the better cards for enabling money density kind of strategy, and in
Sure.
that way is something that is educational. On the other hand, there was another card that I think that sparked a lot of our disagreement on this kingdom. Yeah,
Which agreement?
disagreement.
Oh, okay. Yeah. Wait, was there? Was it Swindler?
Well,
I don't
I
remember.
guess there's two of them. It sort of was about Stewart and Swindler, but in my mind, it focused around Swindler because I think
Okay.
you believe
Yeah.
that the reason that what I wanted to do wouldn't work is because Swindler would mess with it too much, right?
And Swindler messed with it, but I couldn't play Swindler off enough to mess with it enough. Right?
Yeah, okay, that sounds reasonable, I suppose.
Um,
It's
I,
tough to play a lot of Swindlers here.
I feel like we should probably at this point explain, like, in case people weren't paying so much attention or didn't listen last time, or it's been a while since they listened to the last episode, that it's not just like, oh, like what you're actually doing here, which was not centered around any card that we've really talked about right now, but rather centered around procession.
Uh, yeah, so what I had said last time was that I definitely wanted to open with one steward, and I eventually landed on I wanted to open with two stewards.
Oh yeah,
And the idea was I wanted to build a very thin deck. Part of that was because, if my opponent goes for lots of swindlers, the trashing from Steward helps with that. It's at least a partial defense. But also, using whenever I see Triumph on the board, I look for ways to gain lots of cards, and Procession is certainly a thing you can do where you can gain a lot of cards, especially if you can overdraw, you can gain and play those cards and do lots of cool stuff.
right. So you got some swindlers, thinned down a lot, got a bunch of processions, turned settlers into more stewards, and stewards into more processions, and maybe a salvager or two at some point, and those fours into like a treasurer eventually.
Hmm.
And like at some point you have a turn where you go like procession, procession, steward, draw some cards. Procession, play as settlers to draw more cards. Play another procession, gain more stuff, process more stuff, gain more stuff, process more stuff. End up with like a couple salvagers by a couple triumphs that score 55 points each and win the game. That's like the basic plan, right?
Something like that. I think the fact that Treasure can gain treasures from the trash and function as a gainer at a different price point besides the 4 cost one where both of the other gainers are Procession and Salvager.
Right.
Gives me a little bit more top end so I can get enough gains because I think you're really gain limited, but you also need a couple of buys. Yeah.
I think the buys are important so that you can get multiple triumphs, and treasure does. See, I don't think actually treasure is very important in the good deck here, which was the deck you played.
I
Like
thought it was nice, man.
it's
It also
nice,
there were
certainly nice.
There were decent things in the trash, like there were a couple of potions that I could gain because you swindled stuff
Well,
into potions, and I
yeah,
gained them and I could salvage them so I could have like enough
that's the
money.
important part, right?
Yeah, I
Is
could have enough money to like actually
well,
buy enough triumphs.
also treasure gives you a lot of money too.
Yeah,
But
so
yeah,
between
the
treasure
interplay
and
between
salvage.
treasure and salvager is nice in that way. And then like it does gain you a little bit. I'm not saying treasure is bad here. It's just like it's okay. It's pretty good as opposed to how it usually is, which is really, really good.
Well, I think that's just a matter of perspective because like for your deck, you
Isn't it
definitely
all a
wanted
matter? Oh yeah,
yeah, for your deck
my
you
deck sucked.
definitely well, you still wanted treasure, and I think it was one of the
Oh for sure.
primo enablers for it. But it was an enabler in a very specific way that my deck didn't care at all about.
Yeah,
And my deck wanted it for something completely different, and it was still something good that I wanted and that I made use of. And the fact that
sure.
treasure is so flexible, I think, is really what makes it so powerful in the sense that,
Absolutely, possibly.
yeah, you're going to want it in like a lot of different decks for a lot of different reasons. So it makes it
Yeah,
very hard to ignore.
for sure. And then so then when I played that deck, because we played again, and we kind of both played that deck, right?
Yeah.
I have more native villages than you, which is kind of weird. Like native village versus settlers. So I like native village more like right at the beginning because I have a couple terminals and stewards, and just like having a village is nice.
Sure.
And then I think I probably should have gone for settlers more because you're going to have a bunch of processions, so you're not really village limited, but you'd like to draw cards with your two rather than native village, which only kind of sort of does.
Right.
But then at the end, like you end up being village limited again because you process everything and end up with a bunch of terminals somehow. So like at that point, another native village or two would have been fine. The other thing was, yeah, go ahead.
Well, I think there's something to be said for like storing a few cards on your native village mat and then like going for Megaturn with Triumph. I mean,
Yeah,
there's kind of an
well, you're definitely
abstract
going for
synergy
like
there.
a Megaturn with Triumph. The storing the cards on the mat, man, I don't want to think that hard. Yeah,
I know it's it's a brain
it's
hurty
it's
deck.
it's plausible to me that that is something that you want to do, but it's also plausible to me that like whatever. Um,
Yeah,
because you don't want to store them there too long in case they're good cards. You want to play them
sure,
rather than store them. So I don't know.
sure. I think that I mean with procession, there's a lot to think about, and
Absolutely.
I certainly think there's a lot that you could do to optimize the way that this deck is played, and
Oh yeah,
we didn't.
we didn't get near that.
Yeah,
I guess the other thing is like I liked getting a little bit of Swindler in the middle because like it still is an effect that can mess you up. If I hit your procession and turn it into a potion, that's really good for me.
yeah.
If I hit your you hit your steward and turn it into a silver, that's actually like making your 3 cost not be processable is a real thing, right? So
And
like
Stewart is the best source of draw on the board, I
and
think, too, in what matters.
and in combination with procession, absolutely.
Yeah.
And then like hitting your native village or settlers and turning it into a state is also good, and then making all the estates run out so there's no triumphs left. Yeah,
We
no,
broke Dominion.
is not realistic, but sometimes might come up. You're 1 in a trillion.
You're listening to Making Luck, a Dominion podcast. If you're not
Anyway,
listening for the things that are really rare but could theoretically come up, I mean, why
why
are
are
you
you listening
still
to a
here?
Dominion podcast?
Why? And leave a
Anyway,
comment in the comments section.
leave a comment in the comment section, or wherever else. Send a smoke signal. Don't
Yeah,
send a smoke signal. The burning things is bad
yeah,
environmentally.
carbon
Like
footprint, man. Watch your
no,
carbon
but maybe
footprint,
send
bro.
a carrier pigeon or something, right? Those are pretty carbon friendly, I think.
I don't know.
I don't
Maybe.
know. If you have an environmental carbon footprint evaluation of the efficiency of carrier pigeons, leave a comment in the comments section.
Yeah, that's actually, now that I think about it, probably has the smallest carbon footprint of all of the methods we've suggested.
But at this point, I think like some version of what we described with the big lots of processions, getting a really big turn, buying a bunch of triumphs is the best thing on this board. So we probably want to move on to the main topic of the show.
Yeah, I think it's interesting. You were talking about Swindler at the end there, and that's sort of what sparked us to do this Swindler episode that we've had on the list for a little bit.
Yeah.
And you were talking about how you still want to get it in the mid game for reasons, and that's not really something that I had explicitly thought of. When I played the deck, I never really got Swindlers because I was thinking, well, Steward draws cards, and I care about that very deeply, and why would I
Yeah.
want a Swindler when I could have a Steward? But I
Well,
do think it matters.
yeah, and you don't want to get too many swindlers instead of stewards because you do still want to draw. But
Hmm.
like in this case, as in a lot of cases, I kind of view like it's weird. I kind of view Swindler as one of the best non-essential things that you can be getting.
Hmm. Interesting.
Like
I see what you mean.
it's pretty rare that it's like, man, you really need to get Swindler on this board because it's essential to your deck function. It's not. It's not like the attack is like, oh, that attack is definitely going to cripple them because it's not definitely going to cripple them. I mean, sometimes it's pretty likely to cripple them. Don't get me wrong, but like a lot of the time, it's just like it will probably be pretty annoying to them. So you want it if you can afford to get it, but like you'd rather get your deck control going, or if there's some really great you're not going to take Swindler instead of Goons because Goons is just like much better payload than Swindler, right? So it's not like it's like, oh my gosh, it's the most essential thing almost ever, but it's if you can afford to fit it in, it's almost always a nice thing, right? So it's somewhere in that kind of good but not essential range.
Yeah. Hey, I have an idea.
What is your idea?
Why don't we read the text of the card?
Oh, that would be a good idea. I'll do that.
Okay.
Swindler is a 3-cost action attack card. It is from the Intrigue expansion, and it says +2 money. Each other player trashes the top card of their deck and gains a card with the same cost that you choose. So that's the same cost as the card that was trashed from the top of their deck. So if they don't reveal a card from the top of their deck because they've got only 5 cards in their deck and they're all in their hand, they don't get anything, they don't trash anything, whatever. But
Rip.
most of the time, they're going to trash whatever the top card of their deck is. It's going to go into the trash, and then they're going to gain whatever you. So let's say that they reveal a silver goes into the trash, and then you can give them anything that you want that costs probably 3, because that's probably what Swindler cost.
And silver.
Yes, that's probably what silver cost.
You could
said?
give them a Swindler.
You could give them a Swindler if there are Swindlers left. You could give them a silver if there are silvers left.
Yeah.
Nice.
Yeah. So there's an elephant in this room.
Oh my gosh, that sounds like
a metaphorical elephant.
I was Rip Harambe.
Yeah. A moment of silence for Harambe. You did nothing wrong. So there's a metaphorical elephant in this room. Swindler, I think, is not a very popular card.
Oh, it's like, yeah, I think it's the second most banned card.
Interesting.
Now that like online people can ban stuff, I think. So Possession is the most. That's like default.
Yeah, but that doesn't count because it's like pre-populated for you, and I think that corrupts the data.
I think it possibly could still be more unpopular, but it's unclear.
Sure. But yeah,
but Swindler's really unpopular.
Yeah.
Because people view it as a luck machine, and not without reason.
Yeah, it can be game decisive fairly early on. Yeah. And I think it can be frustrating to be on turn 5 or 6 and feel like you're dead in the water because of basically Swindler RNG.
Yeah. Having said that, there's definitely some skill to playing with and against Swindler, so we want to prepare you for that.
For sure. I mean, knowing when it's very powerful and you just need to go like full on for Swindler and hope that the dice come up your way is, that's a thing. But also, if you don't want to do that, if there's something you can do to, defend, or if you
everything on red, Adam.
Well, yeah, you chose the correct color. Best color.
Yeah, I switched from a craps analogy to a roulette analogy.
Yeah, and I think that makes sense. I followed you. Yeah, and so I think actually, I mean, Swindler's been around for a long time.
What a professional podcast.
You know something? I've had people ask, "Where's the Patreon so they can donate?" And I'm like, "That ain't gonna happen, man." Like,
I mean, if you want to give us money, I think you're probably the only one.
yeah. Wandering Winder, maybe
Leave a
you
comment
have a
in the comment
Patreon.
section. No, I don't. Leave a
I'm
comment
not
in the
going.
comment section if you really want us to take your money.
Yeah, but
I'm
that doesn't mean
not gonna
that
get too many of them.
we're gonna do anything differently on the podcast. So deal
No,
with that.
no.
So Swindler's been around for a while, and you know, it's been around for long enough, and I've seen a lot of people learn the game and they see Swindler for the first time. And this actually happened to me. I read the card for the first time. I'm like, that doesn't seem
Yeah.
all that good. And then someone told them, or they realized, hey, wait a second, copper costs 0 and curse costs 0. And then they're like, oh, that's overpowered.
And the truth is that it's not good. Good use of double negatives there, WW. Thank you, WW. But it's also not overpowered, right? It's like, can we talk about trashing curse or trashing copper and gaining curse?
Let's talk about trashing copper and gaining curse.
Right. Okay. So it's not a thing that you want to have happen to you.
Yeah. Sucks. Copper's
Almost ever. Somebody edge cased me in the comments. I'm sure there's a way to edge. But the thing is, okay, so it's bad, but how bad it is depends a lot on. Museum is an edge case. Hermit is an edge case, right?
Boom.
There you go.
There.
If you're playing with Hermit, maybe you give them a copper back instead of a curse.
There you
in
go.
which case, why did you get the Swindler to start with, bro?
Okay.
Maybe you still should. Probably anyway. So right, okay. I think a lot. How good that is depends a lot on the nature of the trashing on the board, or I guess the thinning on the board, right? So like, if your opponent has a chapel, they're probably going to trash that copper or curse the next time they see it anyway. So it didn't really matter that much. Like maybe it matters a little bit because they end up having to draw it one more time without the chapel, but like probably not, right? Probably they're gonna show up in their hand 0 to 1 times, and then it's gonna be gone either way, so it doesn't matter that much, right? In that case, it's kind of mediocre, right? Like, yeah, you'd rather not have it happen. I think actually it's not even clear there because like you cycle back to the chapel faster, so.
Yeah, but
probably you still rather have the copper than the curse in your deck, but it's like kind of you don't care that much, right? But on the other hand, let's say there's no trashing on the board whatsoever, then like that hurts quite a bit because like it's early on in the game, copper is the 3rd best card in your deck, and I mean it's tied for 3rd with all the other coppers.
Yeah.
But like it's a reasonable portion of your buying power at that point, and like that's not going to be true for very long, but it's true for a little bit, and then like -1 points, those add up, right? So it's not like, oh my gosh, they swindled my copper into a curse, I can't win now. Swindler sucks, right? Because it's not that bad. You could have gotten a Swindler and you might swindle them back, whatever. But it's pretty bad. And then in the extreme example, they have a money lender, right?
Ooh.
And it can trash coppers and it can't trash curses.
Yeah.
And now you've really hurt them because now you've taken more of their economy. You've taken away their ability to trash this crapper out of their deck. And not like really, but like I think the nature of, and then there's some in betweens with like, oh, I'm trashing with junk dealer, so it's probably going to stick around a little bit longer than the chapel case, but not forever, and right. So there's some in between cases too, right? But it ranges between like a nasty thing, but not totally debilitating, to I barely noticed that you did this to me. A lot of it is dependent on the trashing.
Yeah, for sure. You said that it really hurts to have that happen to you, And you mentioned that copper is a good card economically for your deck at that point in the game. It's certainly better
Right.
than curse.
Yeah.
But I also want to point out that you know they have the choice to give you a copper or a curse once they've
That's
hit your copper.
true.
And if your opponent chooses to give you a curse, which is clearly a worse card, I mean, I've had that hurt my feelings as well.
Um,
And that's
that might be something that you should like complain about.
I usually do.
Yeah.
But
Why don't you like me? Why you could have just given
yeah,
me the copper back. You
I thought we were
clearly,
bros.
yeah. No.
Yeah, and I just want to point out that like copper into curse is it's real bad, right? It's usually what I'm hoping for in the first several turns of the game when I'm
Oh
playing my
man,
Swindler.
that's not what I'm hoping for almost ever.
Usually, I'm very happy to see that. I mean, there are other high rolls that you can do, but copper into curse is. I mean, that's why I
I'm
buy the
hoping
card.
for a free win, Adam. Copper in a curse is not a free win.
Okay, fine. Your opponent opened 5-2, and you hit their fiver, and it's a duchy now.
Woo!
You
Yeah,
did it.
that's what I'm hoping for.
Okay,
Free
but
wins, baby.
good for you.
Good talk.
But in any case, I mean that's the bread and butter of what Swindler does in the early game. That's sort of why I'm hoping to do it. And the difference between that or maybe some other type of high roll and the other main option that has a chance of happening, which is the Swindler hits an estate
Yeah,
and turns it into
an
an estate.
escape because it's
That's the
well,
worst
usually
thing at that
um,
price point.
you could probably come up with a scenario where like, oh well, there's Shepherd on the board, so estate's actually a good card for them, and there's this what's the worst two costs?
Duchess, Secret Chamber.
Well, Secret
Oh,
Chamber,
counter Swindler. Dang it.
stuff, and the Counter Swindler. So
Rip.
trying to think of
Duchess.
other. Duchess is so underrated. I don't know. There's probably maybe there's some other like just totally garbage.
I'm gonna go with Duchess.
Okay, sure. I guess the biggest part of why Duchess is underrated is that sometimes it's free. Although compared to us, anyway, whatever.
Welcome to
Like
Making Luck, a Duchess podcast.
turning a state into a state. The point is, you actively have helped them in most cases because not only have you given them the same card back, but you've skipped a card which was a bad card for them, which is like the most positive form of cycling, right? You've specifically skipped the worst card in their deck.
Yeah, it's especially like if I'm looking at turn 3, turn 4, when I mean usually that's when the first time Swindler is played in the game is on one of those turns. I'm thinking about what I want to do on those shuffles. And if I put a Swindler in my deck that gives me money, I may have aspirations of hitting a price point that's big, like 5 or 6.
Right.
And skipping an estate, not having to draw that estate, really increases the quality of those turns.
Also, I get back to the 5 or 6 like slightly faster.
Slightly faster.
I get back to the 3s or whatever. All the cards that I bought, because I've skipped a card that wasn't one of them, that's one fewer card I have to draw before I draw that card that I bought.
Yeah, and so this is that kind of that situation I described earlier, where it just feels like GG. Like I hit your estate and you hit my copper. I just feel like I'm so far behind.
That does not feel like that big of a deal to me. To me, the really big situations for Swindler really are, I opened remake and you hit my remake, or I opened with some 5 cost and you hit my 5 cost, and now I have some, I have a duchy, or I have what's a really bad 4 cost?
Sea Hag.
It's not that bad.
Woodcutter.
Potion. I'm gonna bring this up later, right? I have a potion, and like, oh, I can buy a transmute.
Woo!
Woo! Yeah. So, yeah, I mean, those like, to me, I think that if you're trying to buy Swindler because your ambition is, I'm gonna turn some coppers into curses, it's like a pretty weak. I mean, it still might be the best option because it's one of them's probably better than silver if you have the terminal space, and if there's not a lot of else that you're doing with your terminal space, then yeah, sure, go for it. It's nice, but like if that's your highest ambition, I'm not that high on Swindler. I think the big power of Swindler So here's the thing, and I think how you want to look at Swindler is it does two things, right? It trashes a card from their deck and it gives them a card, right? And it's usually you look at those things as linked to each other because it does them together. But if you look at them independently, right, which you can, like there's no reason that says that you can't, right? So giving them a curse is really bad for them, and right, making 2 money and giving them a curse would be such a good card for 3 that they would just, they'd be like, this is imbalanced. You can't print that, right? But it doesn't do that. It trashes a copper, which usually helps them, despite copper being a good card at the start. It's bad so fast, it still usually helps them, right? If at the start of the game you could say, please, would you take a free copper trash or not? You take it like 90 times out of 100, right? I don't know.
Sure.
55 times out of 60.
Yeah.
So like you're trashing a copper, that helps them. You're giving them a curse, that hurts them. And it definitely hurts them more than trashing the copper help. Well, I shouldn't say definitely because there's edge cases, but it almost definitely hurts them more than trashing the copper helps them. But that delta, the difference between those cards, isn't that big in a lot of cases. I think the much bigger differences are maybe on turn 7 or 8 when you have a reasonable chance at hitting a 5 cost and turning it into a duchy. You have a realistic chance of hitting a 4 cost and turning it into some garbagey 4 cost. Or you have a reasonable chance of, so I think, the biggest thing for Swindler is you want to hit cards that you can give them a card that's much worse, right? The difference between the 2 cards, right? And like copper and curse, there's a significant difference, but it's not overwhelming, right? Hunting party and duchy, it's an overwhelmingly large difference between those 2 cards, right? So that's one thing. But it's not just about the card's quality in the abstract, but also in their deck, right? So maybe I've given them a smithy instead of their workers' village. It's not that smithy, which is OP, is so much worse than workers' village in the abstract, but their deck really needs villages because they're slightly over terminal. And now I've gotten rid of village and given them another terminal and like.
Hold on, Wandering Wonder. Are you trying to tell me that whenever I play a Smithy and I have to decide what card, whenever I play Swindler, I have to decide what card to give them, that I shouldn't just pull up the Adam Horton's card ratings and just like look at the highest one on or the lowest one on that rating? I thought that's why we did card rankings instead of card ratings. I thought that's the whole point of this. That's why we wanted rankings, especially sorted by cost.
Didn't we do rating?
Yeah, but wait, that's what I've been doing. Are you saying I shouldn't be doing that?
I am saying that you should be paying attention to what your opponent is doing and what's in their deck, because it's actually pretty important when you're making your Swindler decisions. Yeah. Sorry.
Dang it. Okay, I need to rethink my whole life. Wow, we're like 99 episodes into this, and I just figured out, like, I don't know how to play Dominion. Rip.
I want to go home and rethink my life.
You do not want to buy death sticks.
Hashtag prequel memes.
So yeah, and I think the big concern that you were alluding to, it revolves around terminal space, right?
It's usually about sometimes it's about payload versus deck control, but usually it's about terminal space, or like sometimes it's also about, you're giving them a thinner after they've thinned, right? Like, oh, well, you have no junk whatsoever in your deck, so now I'm going to turn your Swindler into an ambassador, because ambassador's not good anymore, and you already have 3.
Right. So I think it follows that it's pretty important to know very intimately what your opponent's deck is like, so that you can maximally give them what you believe the worst card in that situation is.
Right, because it's not just I'm going to give them the worst card. It's I'm going to give them the worst card for them right now, which sometimes is the card that they already had. Even if they actively bought that. Like, let's say they bought what's a card that pretty much does trashing and nothing else?
Silver. Oh, no.
Chapel. that doesn't cost, well, maybe even like sometimes you trash their chapel and give them a chapel back because estate would be better than chapel, because the chapel is totally worthless now. They have no garbage, and
Estate's worth a point.
estate's worth a point, which might matter, right?
Yeah.
You give them their chapel back, even though chapel is a much better card than estate in the abstract.
It's also like
chapel is a much better card than estate in the abstract.
Yeah, it's also like
actually, that's not true, because in the abstract nothing matters and you can't really write anything in the abstract, but that's a digression. Anyway, go ahead.
It also it's kind of like a slap in the face. Like, oh, you bought that card? Well, I think that's the worst card for your deck right now. I'm gonna give it back to you. And then they sit there and they think like, wow, this person who thinks
they sit
they're
there
really...
and think, I want to go home and rethink my life.
Yeah, that's right. Want to go home and rethink their life.
So, okay, we've talked about how trashing really impacts Swindler and how good it is and that kind of stuff. We talked about the early game. We've talked about how I think it often gets better in the mid game when you're more likely to be able to mess with like the actual good cards that are keeping, although that is, like we said, depending on trashing. What are some other things that we still want to talk about with Swindler? Maybe the late game, right?
Yeah, so there are a lot of things that you buy Swindler for. Copper to Curse, Fivers into Duchies, just general mucking. Another thing that Swindler does is it turns provinces into provinces. Let's say there's provinces in people's decks, and I play a Swindler and I hit one, and it's very likely that province is going to be the only card that costs 8 on that board, and so you're just going to give them another province. So the effect that this has is when Swindler hits the province, it does accelerate the end of the game, because the game's over when the province pile runs out.
Right.
And I think that most things in Dominion that say attack on them, they have the property that if you play this repeatedly every turn, or maybe multiple times a turn,
it tends to slow the game down.
Well, hopefully slows your opponent down to the point where you can really stop them from closing out the game as easily as they could have otherwise.
Right.
I don't really think Swindler has this property, and I think it's one of the few exceptions to that rule. That anything that says attack on it's going to help you if you want to build longer and score points later.
I mean, yeah, it does depend a little bit, right? Because sometimes it does slow. It depends on what you hit, right? Sometimes it does slow them down and cripple their deck because you get rid of all their villages and now they're stuck with 30 terminals and
right. But that's sort of Swindler taking a big old Cleveland steamer on your opponent's deck in the beginning and the middle of the game. Where
you're just saying that because you're from Cincinnati.
You don't know me.
You don't know me.
But a lot of times I would be tempted to just focus on getting control of my own deck to the point where once I put that attack in my deck, I am playing it every turn or maybe multiple times a turn. And Swindler is really not something that fits that very well. You really should be prioritizing buying that card and playing that card a lot earlier, even if it potentially comes at the cost of your own deck building.
But it also depends. It also depends, right, on what it is that they're doing. If they're also building their deck up, right, then they're not going to have provinces, and you're more likely to be just like mucking with their deck, right? So if they're doing that, then playing Swindler a lot looks better, right? But if they're doing something else, and they're just like, I'm going to buy some golds and I'm going to buy some provinces, then spamming Swindler a lot is not an effective counter to that, because what do they want to do? They want to close the game out before you can catch up. What does Swindler do for you there? It helps them close the game out before you can catch up, right? In that situation, I mean, playing a little Swindler is probably still fine, but you don't want to be like, oh, I'm going to King's Court 3 Swindlers every turn to get 9 Swindlers, because you know what's going to happen is you're going to trash 4 provinces, and suddenly the game's over, and you're like, I only got 1 before they ran out. What happened?
Rip. Yeah, so I think in this case, gold and province in your example were what I like to call Swindler-proof cards.
And sometimes gold isn't, but occasionally province isn't, but...
Yeah, and you just want to look for, if Swindler's on a board and you're trying to figure out how good it is, you can look for a Swindler-proof deck that you can build.
And in case it's not obvious, what Adam means by Swindler-proof is there is no other card at the same cost.
Either that or all the cards at that cost are so similar that I really don't care. Like if there's 2 different 4 cost villages, whatever,
Right.
then
Like
those villages are swindler proof, right?
if I'm turning your mining village into walled village, like sure, that hurt your
Yeah,
deck, but like if I turn your walled village into a port, like absolutely that hurt your deck. But is it a
it doesn't
meaningful
matter.
way? No, no,
Definitely not.
no.
So, swindler proof cards and a swindler proof deck is something you should at least check for because, in a lot of cases, gold is going to be relatively swindler proof and province. And so, someone just playing something that's more money focused while you try and build up and lean on swindler for, shutting them down, that's not going to work out very well for you.
Right.
So,
But on the other hand, right, you also still need to be looking at what else is going on. Because, for instance, the kingdom we played last week, right? Sure, I could build a swindler proof deck that gets a bunch of golds and like,
well, yeah.
okay, it's like if I just buy gold and silver, that's relatively swindler proof. Like, yeah, you're gonna turn my silver into a steward or a swindler. I'm not gonna cry too
Woo!
much, right?
Yeah.
But it because the other stuff apart from swindler pulls you away from playing this moneyish deck so strongly, you probably don't want to like swindler is not enough reason to say, oh well, I'm definitely going to play moneyish now. It's just if moneyish was already like just I'm going to buy one thing a turn was already a big consideration for you, then you really need to think about, okay, how does swindler affect that dynamic? But if like you had the opportunity to where you were going to be like, I want to build this deck that gains 12 things in a turn, then you have to think about how much does swindler really hurt me here. And if the only way that it really hurts me is if my opponent can play 7 swindlers in a turn because they are also building a deck that can gain 12 things in a turn, then you should probably go for that deck that does 12 things in a turn, right?
Sure, and I think that if we just hashtag circle back here, I
Yeah,
think the biggest thing that you look for in that case is the trashing, right?
yeah,
The
absolutely.
trashing helps you get rid of the coppers and the curses, whatever they are at that point. If they're all in the trash, I don't
Well,
care. And
and like enough villages to be able to play multiple terminals reasonably.
yeah,
Deck control, yeah.
yeah. So yeah, I think that's sort of it in a nutshell. I think that there are several nuances that we can talk about, and that's certainly why
Yeah, I
people are
think
listening.
there's so the last kind of broad thing that I want to talk about
Oh,
is
yeah.
terminal space, right? Because like I said at the beginning, to hashtag circle back again, I feel like Swindler is usually one of the best non-critical things you can be doing. So you have to look at how many terminals you can support. If it's just like, well, if there's 3 piles of villagers, I can just add another one and add another Swindler. It's relatively free. Then there's probably something you want to do. But if the terminal space is tight, Swindler is not the highest priority terminal in a lot of cases, right? Like if I'm playing a bunch of bridges, I'd rather do that than play a bunch of Swindlers usually. I mean, it gets a little complicated because if the terminal space is tight, then maybe you can swindle them out of like into extra terminals. So you have to weigh those things. But if
Yeah,
it's like
like
if I need to use
is terminal space tight because there's one stack of villages and I want to play a lot of terminals in a turn?
right,
Swindler can certainly hurt if it hits one of those precious villages.
right,
But if terminal space is tight for maybe some other reason, like oh the only village is Crossroads and Necropolis, then well I can replace the Crossroads and we can
right.
talk about shelters later.
Or if it's tight because just like I the game will be over once I'm playing 4 terminals in a turn, then maybe those 4 bridges were better than trying to go for the swindlers, right?
I suppose, yeah.
So it's not it's good payload, but it's not premium payload, right? It's not goons, it's not bridge, it's not a drawing card. So sometimes you want to prioritize your drawing cards for your terminal space. It's not a trasher, so like maybe you want to prioritize your terminal trashers higher, right? Often you want to do these like in the kingdom from last time, we wanted to get stewards first, right? We wanted to get our deck under control. And at the beginning of the game, that was more important terminal space.
Hmm.
I guess something else we could talk about, which I think is related to this, is the opening, where double Swindler is an opening that people think about a lot and people go for a lot, and I go for a lot, but I think that's not very often. So, like, I think I do it too often. I think I would be better served by doing it less. I
Yeah.
think you should actually. I was thinking about this in preparation for this episode, and reflecting on things and reviewing some things and looking at some stuff. I just don't think you should almost ever open double Swindler, because, like, why do you want a Swindler in the opening, right? Like Adam said earlier, you usually want to hit 5 or 6 in it, along with like trying to mess with them a bit, right?
Yeah.
And if you open double Swindler, you're significantly hurting your chances of getting, 5 or 6 compared to Swindler Silver, which is always an option.
Yeah.
So if you're trying to hit 5 or 6, then we would rather open Swindler Silver, because just early in the game, you're most likely going to hit Copper or Curse, and that's not that big of an effect. Whereas Swindler does have like a 20% chance that they collide or something, whatever it is. It's not an exact chance. Somebody can quote the right
55.
number. It's definitely not that high. But so right. The terminal collision thing is real there, especially if the card that you want to get is also a terminal, right? The terminal collision thing is really real there then, right? So that's one of the ways that terminal space can be important is, okay, yes, I could support it eventually. I could support this many terminals, but at the beginning of the game, there's these other terminals which are just more important. So I'm going to hold off on the Swindler till later, because my terminal space at the beginning of the game, I don't want to have to open Village or get Village on turn 3 maybe. I want to be able to get these other terminals and not need to be getting Villages maybe quite so fast. So that's one way that terminal space can come in. The other thing is, if you're not so focused on hitting 5 or 6 early, then you might think, oh, well, then the terminal collision isn't that important. I might want to go double Swindler. But, like, why don't you care about hitting 5 or 6 early? And it's got to be because there's some other card that costs less than 5 or 6 that you want to get, in which case, why didn't you get that instead of one of the Swindlers?
Right, yeah.
So I actually think that, I'm sure there are cases where opening double Swindler is good, but I think they're very, very rare. And even when I say I do it a lot, I think it was like 8% of the time when I looked it up, or maybe it was 13, I don't know. But both of those seem high to me. I think it should be extremely rare, because usually hitting 5 is too critical to take those double terminal space, or there's some other, 2, 3, 4 costs that you'd rather have than one of the Swindlers.
All right.
But you want to talk
Silver's
about
a good card.
some kind of like special things to watch out for?
Yeah. So I had talked a while ago about how Province is usually the only $8 card on a board.
Yeah.
But what if it's not?
Dun dun dun!
Thank you for that.
You're welcome.
But there's 2 other ones out there.
Usually.
Usually. There's always 2 other ones in my box, but it depends on if they're in the kingdom.
I guess there isn't another way to make a different card cost 8. Well, Province also costs 8.
Rip.
Somebody
Leave a comment in the comment section.
Until the next expansion, where Donald makes a action that costs
10,
10, 12, or almost any even number greater than 8.
Yeah, then you can do it.
You could do it with like Quarry or Fairy or some combination thereof. Quarry, you'd also need to get it back into the place where you can play a Swindler after you've played a Quarry, but there's ways to. Anyway, go ahead. We're edge casing the edge case here.
Yeah, so Prince, it's a card, and it costs 8. And if I hit my opponent's Province and I can turn it into a Prince, I'm usually very happy about that.
Often, yeah.
Yeah, and so this actually kind of breaks the rule that I said before about how, like, you can't really shut your opponent down by playing a lot of Swindlers in the endgame. Well, with Prince, you can, like, actually take their points lead away and not necessarily accelerate the end of the game.
Oh, yeah.
So that's pretty hot.
If they wanted to go for Prince, you might turn it into a Province if it's early enough.
Maybe, yeah.
You just, check yourself before you wreck yourself.
That's exactly what I was going to say. Check yourself before you wreck yourself. Yeah, man.
But there's another 8 cost too, and that has a little bit of a maybe more interesting situation,
Yeah.
and that's called Peddler.
Yeah. Peddler.
Um, and so the thing with peddlers is pretty often they're a lot easier to get than 8 costs normally are.
Yeah.
Pretty often you get a lot of them, and then they run out. And then you're turning your opponent's peddlers into the only 8 cost left on the board, which is province.
Yeah. That feels really
And
bad.
you usually really don't want to do that.
Yeah.
So now, having said that, there are some cases where it's just like really hard to get peddlers, so they're not going to run. Like
Sure.
there's no plus buy, right? You're not going to run out.
Yeah.
Or it's just really hard to play a lot of actions in a turn, so they're not going to run out. So in those cases, it works more like the prince. Like you're going to swindle their province into a peddler, and you're going to be pretty happy about it.
Yeah. So, but like that never happens. We're in the post big money era of Dominion, so
except when
don't
it
even
happens.
worry about that.
Because you're talking about the swindler-proof deck that got gold and province.
Yeah, that doesn't count.
Okay, great. Potion I mentioned earlier, right? Potion is a 4-cost. Don't forget that it exists on boards that it exists on, right?
Yeah, man.
It's very often the worst 4 that you can give them. Not always, right? Sometimes the curses are gone and you give them the Sea Hag and woo. Although more on that in a second.
Or you just give them the Sea Hag.
Yeah, because you want them to be entranced by that headband. But you give them a potion, and maybe potion is a fine card on the board, but they probably already have one in that case, and like giving them another one is, there's diminishing returns on getting extra potions. Sometimes you don't want to do it because it's still not the worst, but sometimes it's the worst. A lot of times it's like pretty close to a confusion, i.e. a card that does nothing, because like the scrying pools are gone, or I don't really want to transmute, thanks. Or I don't really want a Philosopher's Stone, thanks. So watch out for potion, because it's something you can give them.
Yeah.
On buy, or especially on gain effects. So if a card has an on gain effect, it's like a pseudo defense against Swindler, because you've already gotten a bunch of value on the card from buying it, from gaining it, and especially if it's the only card at the cost, they have to give you back. You get more on gain effect, right? So if it's the only cost of the card, it's like even more of a defense. On the other hand, like it's not that much of a defense, right? Oh, you
like what
into a, I don't know, whatever. It still hurts you usually, right? So it's a pretty minor fact.
Huh.
Spy type attacks, which I think the only one left after first edition or after second edition, however you want to say that, is Scrying Pool.
Oh, but what about Rabble? They can top deck their provinces. I
was going to get to Rabble and Fortune Teller. That's literally in my notes on this. Thanks, Adam. But so Scrying Pool.
Well, I'm sorry for making this more conversational, Wandering Winder.
Fine, Adam. So Scrying Pool lets you set up exactly what card you want to hit with your Swindler. I mean, not exactly, but you get a lot of control. So like, if you're Scrying Pooling them a lot, you can really kind of try to make sure you hit their 8 and their province and turn it into a prince.
We did it, guys. We did it.
Yes, Rabble and Fortune Teller are usually a non-bow, because usually you don't want to be hitting their green cards. You'd rather be hitting their actions, say. So yeah, usually they don't mix well together, basically. But Fortune Teller that's less of a thing for, because you usually play the Swindler before you play the Fortune Teller, and so you're fine.
Yeah, it's okay.
But yeah. But speaking of making sure that you hit their provinces, well, this isn't really hitting their provinces, but the other way to turn their province into another card that costs the same as province is to make their provinces cost the same as everything else by playing 8 cost reduction effects.
Oh, wow.
And then turning their province into a curse. That feels real nice when you can do it. Is pretty hard to set up and usually not very relevant. Because usually the only way that it ends up being relevant is if the cost reduction effect is like exactly highway and there's no extra gains on the board. That
But then
way,
why did you get 8 highways?
because they just went straight for provinces and you needed to come back because you built more because they were going for money and you weren't.
But there's no extra gains. Okay, got it.
But there's Swindler, so you can swindle all their hard-earned provinces into curses. That's almost the only time that comes up, is if like, oh, I thinned down, which was slow, and you went for money, which was fast, so you got
And
like
you got 8 highways, 1 per turn.
highways, 1 per turn, and then swindled you maybe multiple times. I don't know.
Yeah.
But like the defense against
We
that,
did it, guys.
get 3 highways.
Nice.
So, I mean, it can come up, but it's not relevant almost ever. Possession's really weird. Note that the way
always weird.
possession is worded, it only replaces the trash effect if you're trashing the cards of the player being possessed. So if you're possessing someone and you're making them play Swindler, they will trash your cards. But having said that, you get to decide what they get swindled into. So if anything, you're going to upgrade them. I mean, not upgrade like the card upgrade, but turn them into a better card, right? Maybe you hit your chapel and you turn it into a lackey's because your chapel's done its job already.
Or if you're playing that 2-player variant of Dominion where you play a 6-player game with Swindler and Jester and Border Village and Peddler in the kingdom.
And the game is over on turn 6.
But each player is controlling 3 of the remember like we did on Goko?
Yeah.
That was fun.
Yeah, that was fun. Right. Cursors. This one actually comes up a lot. So curse giving attacks tend to make Swindler worse because the curses run out, and that A, dilutes the effectiveness of your curse giving attack, and B, really dilutes the effectiveness of your Swindler because you turn their curses back into coppers.
Woo!
Yeah.
Feels bad. Feels really bad to do that.
Cards that have on trash effects typically make Swindler worse, although it depends a little bit on the on trash effect. So like Fortress is a defense against Swindler because
that's bad.
You drew them a card because their Fortress goes, instead of being in their deck, it goes into their hand, and then you give them a 4 cost, which sometimes giving them a 4 cost hurts their deck, but pretty often it doesn't. Pretty often, like, the effect you would get from swindling a 4 cost is you get to give them a much worse card, but it's usually not like actively bad.
Yeah.
Or in a lot of cases it's not actively bad. So that can be a real defense. So now it does depend a little bit on the on trash benefit in particular. So like if you trash their hunting grounds, they often don't want to gain a duchy or 3 estates yet. But
you know.
Yeah, I mean sometimes
duchy.
they do.
You don't know me.
The unique for their cost cards, when they run out, you get to just perma-trash them. This can be true for provinces if you're like King's Courting 12 Swindlers at the end of your turn.
Or it's a fleet turn.
Or it's a fleet turn. Something like that. Or the provinces were all gone before you started your turn. Is there a way to do that other than fleet? I know there's a way to have 3 empty piles gone before the start of your turn besides
if
fleet.
It's a 6-player game, because then you have 4 piles empty. But provinces.
No, I was going to go with buying donate in a way that empties the provinces empties the piles between turns. But I don't think you can do that with provinces. But you could like do it with like trashing squires and gaining attacks between turns.
There's got to be a way to empty the provinces while donating, right? Leave a comment in the comments.
Comment section once you figure out how to do that.
That's got to be possible. Everything's possible in Dominion.
Shelters cost 1 instead of 2, so you don't swindle them back into estates. You swindle them out of deck. So
yeah, that OG. Be aware of
that. On the other hand, Necropolis is nice because the issue with Swindler is terminal space. Just be careful. Heirlooms, it really depends on the heirloom. Hitting their goat. Man.
Jake will never let me hear the end of when he got his goat swindled on like turn 3 of the game, and he just rage
That's
quit or
like the
something.
turn 3 GG scenario for you there, because I've got to tell you, Estate tends to be a much worse card than Goat.
Rip. Poor Jasper. He didn't deserve it. He's with Harambe now.
Oh man. But on the other hand, like trashing their cursed gold might help them. In fact, often does.
Yeah.
So just like think about it.
Yeah.
We talked about copper trashers, tomb and sewers. Like just if you
Wait.
think about it for 2 seconds, you'll realize what they do. I guess I should explain.
Tomb.
Tomb.
No bueno.
You're not trashing the card with Swindler. Your opponent is trashing the card. You're making them do it, but they're the one doing the trashing, so they're the one that gets the tomb points. In case that wasn't clear.
Yeah. Don't.
So they're big dissuasions for Swindler.
No bueno.
Yeah, I think that mostly covers the normal edge cases. If you want to get like edge casey, leave a comment in the comment section.
Oh, we could talk about the artwork.
We've been talking for a while now, Adam.
He's got a pointy mustache.
Or the like original beta artwork from before they were published cards. It's like a fox with a flag or something.
Whoa, nice.
I don't remember. It's taken from something, and it's a copyrighted image, I'm sure. But if you want to, go onto the dark parts of the internet, I would not recommend doing that.
Yeah,
but you could figure out that it was, whatever.
The VPN something.
Yeah, until that gets broken. Great.
So there's we have another Kingdom with Swindler in it.
Yeah.
Hope you wanted that.
But it's an interesting one, I think. Maybe you can yell at me and tell me, no, it's not interesting. Swindler ruins all games. But
leave a comment in the comment section.
Yeah, I'm going to read this one out. Yeah. So we have Encampment, under 5 copies of which are 5 copies of Plunder. Gear, Oasis, Swindler, Messenger, Counterfeit, Haunted Woods, Margrave, Outpost, and Peddler. We also have Shelters, plus the what are they? Projects, yeah. Silos and Guildhall. Once more for our audio only listeners, we've got Encampment, Plunder, Gear, Oasis, Swindler, Messenger, Counterfeit, Haunted Woods, Margrave, Outpost, Peddler, Silos, Guildhall, and instead of the starting estates, we have Shelters. That would be Hovel, Necropolis, and Overgrown Estate.
So I wasn't listening to this I actually didn't listen to the podcast, but I can tell you what my plan is.
Wait, what do you mean?
If my opponent opens with 2 Swindlers and I see that, I'm second player on turn, I'm going to get a Messenger and I'm going to give us both Swindlers. Boom! Now they got too many terminals. Get wrecked, nerd.
You realize that you also have too many. Like, did you open Swindler on turn 1 also?
Oh, yeah.
So now you have 3 Swindlers going into your shuffle that happens after turn 2. Your opponent has 3 terminals, but only 2 of them in that shuffle.
Oh yeah. Maybe
nice
if I'd listened to the episode, I would have known that it was about terminal space.
Ripperoo. I mean, you do have the Necropolis here to help with your terminal space
Woo,
issue.
Necropolis.
Also to help you buy Peddlers a little bit easier.
Nice. So what I'm seeing here is the only trashing on the board is Counterfeit, which can trash coppers but not trash curses.
So there is curse trashing on the board. It's called Swindler.
Oh. Right. Okay, great. So
I mean, this does come up sometimes in Swindler games, right? If both players are getting Swindlers and they just happen to hit the curses and coppers enough, like even without another cursing attack, sometimes the curses run out. It's not a never thing.
Yeah,
and especially that's more often true when there's not other ways to trash the curses, like here.
Yeah, but what I see this and I start salivating. I'm thinking about every time my Swindler hits one of their coppers, turns it into a curse. That curse is stuck in their deck forever, and they can never counterfeit it. And it makes me so happy just to think about causing that kind of pain to someone else. It makes me want to open with at least 1 Swindler, but also makes me want to get to Counterfeit ASAP and get those coppers out of my deck as quickly as possible.
And your opponent having the counterfeit makes you want the Swindler more so that you can swindle it into a duchy.
Yeah, so like Swindler Counterfeit seems to be the main focus of anything that I care about when I haven't even really thought about the rest of the kingdom.
I mean, it's kind of weird though, right? Because there's Encampment Plunder, right?
Yeah,
And
Encampment's
Encampment
the only
is the
village.
only village besides your Necropolis.
Necropolis, yeah.
So you kind of want to do that, but then you don't really want to get your encampment swindled into estates.
Well, that would be unfortunate. But like, I mean,
And
if
you
I
don't want to
have
get
more
your
encampments,
plunders swindled into duchies, but maybe you're just taking golds instead of those because golds are #swindler proof on this board.
yeah.
The other thing
And if I have Guildhall and they swindle my gold, boom, I get a Covfefe.
Oh, that's true. Or
Hard counter.
if you have Guildhall and there's no curses left and they swindle a curse or a copper, boom, you get a coffer.
Oh, got there. Nice.
You ever think of that one? Adam?
No, I didn't think of that one. Wandering Winder.
Great. There's also Outpost on this board. And while Outpost can be a very good card, your fourth Outpost tends to not be.
Yeah, man.
So, like, usually early on, you should still probably prefer to give them Duchy over Outpost. But at some point, you want to give them Outposts. Like, maybe they have a lot of terminals, and Outpost is terminal. And, like, 3-card hands don't look that great here, so it's not that big of a thing. And, like, eventually 3 points can matter.
You're going to have 3-card hands because of Margrave, but I know what you're saying.
Well, I don't know. How are you divvying up your terminal space, and are you getting encampments, and are you keeping them? It's not so clear to me. I don't know what you're doing with your terminal space exactly.
I want to get encampments, and I want to keep them.
Yeah, well,
I feel like the player who does that is probably going to do better.
I want to get a life. I don't really know where I was going with that. Silos. So silos is something else that the Swindler hurts a little bit. I actually think so. For a while, I was thinking maybe Swindler isn't so. Swindler looks amazing here. What was I thinking when I first looked at
the board? But the thing is, there's a lot of things that pull you away from Swindler here. There's Peddler that we talked about, and the Peddler pile's probably going to run.
But
there's shelters. Yeah,
so
of course.
This is the thing that's not clear to me. I don't know that you're ever going to be able to like play enough stuff in a turn that the Peddler pile really will run. In which case, that makes me want Swindler even more. Right? But that is what I was thinking, was the Peddlers are going to run, so maybe I don't want Swindler. But you know what? I'm not sure that's true, because like you're going to get Counterfeit more than your other actions early. If you're going to get how are you going to hold on to your encampments, and or they might get swindled into estates, and then you don't have the terminal space, and so how are you going to play your?
That's a very pessimistic way to look at it.
Margrave plus buy the free Peddler. Like I don't.
Look, Swindler can have a variety of effects on your deck, okay? It could be that the Swindler hurts me a lot, or it could be that the Swindler doesn't hurt me all that much. It could be that I can buy 4 counterfeits and never draw any of them because they all get swindled. I mean, there's such a wide variety of things, and I can't tell you what's going to happen in one particular game, but what I can tell you is what my early game goals are. And I can, then reevaluate at a certain point when I have more information about what's happened so far.
No, I know you mentioned Guildhall earlier.
Yeah?
Do you want Guildhall here?
Probably not.
I mean, I might. If I think my terminal space is going to be a real problem for me, and I already have, like, enough counterfeits, I might go for a Guildhall.
I don't know. You do you, man. What I'm focused on is, I mean, there's a lot of reasons why that are working against Swindler here.
# reasons.
Peddler is something that could possibly maybe run, and so would be a risk. There's shelters, which hurt Swindler. So these are things that work against Swindler.
It's true.
On the other hand, I still think I want to open with the card.
Yeah, I think I want to open Swindler Silver?
I think I want Swindler Silver as well. I thought briefly about Oasis or Gear. I think there may be something to Swindler Gear.
I mean, I think there may be something to Swindler Oasis. Maybe I want Oasis more than I want Silver. I probably do.
So Swindler Silver gives you, I think, the highest chance to hit double 5 out of any of those openings. Is that
Oh,
right?
double 5, I'm pretty sure, yeah.
And so that's probably why I would end up with Swindler Silver. Swindler Swindler Gear I don't think is nuts, but I still think I prefer Swindler Silver just because if I
I
can
just
put 2 counterfeits in my deck, I'm very
double
happy.
5 is so unlikely that I wouldn't. I mean, it's like Swindler Silver is going to give you like 15% or something to get double 5. It's not very high.
Okay, I want my
To hit 5,
15%, man.
hit 5 at least once, I think. Well, probably something with gear is really high there. But Oasis is also higher than. Oh, Oasis Swindler is, I think, I'm pretty sure higher than Silver Swindler. The
Well,
other
like
nice thing about Oasis, let me bring up. You know what? I did this math.
I'm just thinking about it, and like if I'm not hitting 5 on turn 3 or 4, what am I getting? What card am I going to put in my deck and actually feel good about? Like maybe an Oasis if I already have a silver. I mean, I could get an encampment, I guess, but that doesn't feel very good.
I mean, it kind of feels great. The other thing for Oasis to me is it helps me to start to get my action density up a little bit,
For
which can
Peddler,
help me get to Peddlers a little bit easier.
right? And that's fine. It's just that I think
I
it's
think I'm
much
coming
worse than
around on
Counterfeit.
Swindler Oasis. I mean, don't get me wrong. I'm mostly want Counterfeit, but like, okay, so Swindler Silver. If you ignore the effect of your opponent's Swindlers, because on turns 3 and 4 the effect is nothing.
Well,
Right.
they could hit your Ogie,
Oh, that's true. So that
Yeah.
helps your opponent.
right?
But okay, we're ignoring that for a
Yeah,
second.
let's.
So Swindler Silver gives you a 91.2% chance of hitting 5 at least once, and a 14.9% chance of hitting it twice. Swindler Oasis gives you a 91.8% chance of hitting 5. That's the same, isn't it? No, it's 0.6% higher.
Oh.
But only an 8.2% chance of hitting it twice.
Yeah, silver
So
all day, man.
I'm taking. I mean, so the other thing in favor of silver is that like it works a little bit better with counterfeit. Like later on, you can counterfeit a silver, but you can't counterfeit a Oasis.
Sure, I guess. I mean, well,
Which
sure.
often comes up in games with counterfeit. Like you get close to the end of the game, and you're just like, give me the extra 2 money right now.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, sure. I mean, you don't want too many Oases, right? Draws a little bit tight
No,
here.
that's true.
I don't
Draw is
want
tight.
lots of
I want a lot of
things. I don't want lots of things getting in between my encampments and my golds in the deck that I eventually want to build. That totally has all that stuff in it.
And so you want so you want silver?
Yeah,
Because
because you can
silver gets in between
counterfeit it.
less than Oasis. Oh,
I don't
because
know. I want a lot of good cards in my deck.
I mean, I don't know. I think so. This is one of those boards, and Swindler lends itself to this. So for all you hashtag Swindler haters out there, here's a positive aspect of Swindler. I think you could play this board 55 times and have like 15 pretty different experiences,
Yeah.
and maybe not quite 50, but like several different, it play out very different ways depending on how the Swindler hits go.
Yeah. Hope you wanted that.
I mean, that's not all bad, right?
No, I think it's going to be fun for
Especially-
playtesting this game.
Especially for us who are playtesting this Kingdom 12 times.
Yeah.
Don't hold us to that. We'll play test it, but 12 might not be the number.
Rip.
Ripperoo. Yeah, like if you have to play it multiple times, there's just I think it's going to be hard to tell actually with this because how often do your encampments get hit is going to be really important because if you can get and keep encampments, then you're going to win. Like if you can get and keep a bunch of them, you're going to be in real good shape to be able to do your Margrave, maybe Haunted Woods, maybe Outpost stuff, or maybe just play more Swindlers. And if you can't do that, then Swindler looks really good if you stuck on not many terminals or not many actions played per turn.
If I get an encampment and it stays in my deck, great. And if it doesn't stay in my deck, then I have something very pointed and direct to whine about, which is very important.
Yeah.
And remember, you got to be thinking of that stuff before the game even starts.
Yeah. So I think I like Swindler Oasis. I think the difference between Swindler Oasis and Swindler Silver is like incredibly small.
Yeah, probably. But I would
Um,
definitely get the silver.
I would watch out for at the end of this game messengers. Mostly at the end. There's a couple ways I think messengers could be important. One, it might be better than nothing when there's one encampment left in the pile and you messenger yourself in an encampment. That's true. But it might be better than an encampment when there's only one encampment left in the pile. You messenger yourself as an encampment instead of just buying encampment. I think it's plausible that it's better than nothing. I also think it's plausible that it's worse than nothing because terminal space is tight here. But that's one thing. But another thing is like swindlers. We talked about it making the province pile potentially evaporate because you swindle province into province. It can make other piles potentially evaporate as well. So like the estates might run out, the curses might run out, the swindlers might run out. The encampment plunders sometimes just run out because they do, or the peddlers or something. So you might get to piles being low and then like, messengering to empty piles. The reason that messenger is most often, actually it's not true. It's probably most often relevant because it's like I want plus buy, but
You can get that here.
No, hashtag, the reason, I don't know why I just said hashtag. The reason that messenger is most often relevant is obviously because of stash. But
yes, for sure, because of stash. The old messenger stash combo. We did it, guys.
We did it. I guess there is you could make some argument for like just, nope, I'm going to skip messenger, or I'm going to skip messenger. I'm going to skip swindler. I'm just going to pay like some variation of gear money with counterfeit and maybe Guildhall. And I don't think that's good because your opponent's too likely to be able to get encampments set up if you're not interfering with them at all. And then they're going to be able to play Margraves and Haunted Woods on you. And then
yeah, and Outpost, and like, I mean, I just don't.
I still don't know that Outpost would be that great, but maybe.
I mean, I can score 10 VP tokens a turn with Outpost and Plunder.
I mean, if you can draw that well, but it's not that easy.
I can gear a gold every turn and like just. I can gear Plunder every turn and like score 8 points.
Sure.
I'm really not concerned with the player that doesn't.
The player that's going for just gear and not.
Yeah.
Like ignoring the encampments and ignoring this one. Like, I think that it's pretty likely that this game ends up that you're not doing like I'm going to play a Margrave and an Haunted Woods and an Outpost and a gear and all that stuff.
Yeah,
like
and it's because of Swindler. Yeah.
Well, partially because your opponent's also going to contest you on encampments, and then also because of Swindler. Right,
okay,
you're not going to be able to keep more than like one encampment very often. I don't think. Rip-a-roo.
Rip.
But yeah, you want to get counterfeits, and I think I probably will get Guildhall if most games that I hit 5 but not 6 and already have 2 counterfeits. But
okay.
Yeah, I'm probably playing something along the lines of Swindler money-ish, but I want to be able to contest encampments, and if I get enough encampments, obviously I want to do some like Margrave business. But I just expect that in a lot of cases, that's not going to work out because the swindlers will be too much of a factor.
I think encampment matters a lot more than what you're suggesting.
I think encampment matters a lot. I just don't think you're going to be able to keep many of them around reliably very often.
That's a decision I don't have to make till later.
Yeah, I want to go for the encampment stuff. I just think that the way that the game will usually work out, it won't end up being that like, man, I played 3 encampments a lot, or I even played 2 encampments a lot. I might get to keep 1, in which case I'm probably just playing my 2 swindlers with it.
Huh. Well, let us know what you think. How would you open here? Would you get Swindler? What would you pair it with if you did? Let us know if you think encampment matters, or are the peddlers going to run? If you think
Outpost is going to run.
Yeah, which of the 2 of us do you think is more handsome? Let us know. Leave a comment. You can do that on YouTube if you're watching or listening to the podcast there, or otherwise you can go to adamhorton.com You can get links to just about everything you could want. There's forums, Discord channel. You can go to Wandering Winder's YouTube channel, which is youtube.com/wanderingwinder.
It often is.
But we'd like to hear from you. We have a couple of episodes in the works in the near future. Got that Slay the Spire 0.5 hopefully coming. If you like games that are similar to Dominion, you might be interested in that. Or hopefully there's going to be some more Dominion-related Making Luck stuff.
Like our 100th episode, which might be the next not 0.5 episode.
Yeah, who knows? And then the 110th, which is where we're going to pull out all the stops.
Right, because that's 55 times 2.
Yeah, that's what actually matters.
When we get to 3025, the 3025th episode, that's going to be just like when we really go off.
Yeah, just make sure you're listening for that one. You've been warned.
Yeah, that'll probably be our last episode because we're never going to be able to top it, so why bother?
Yeah, the grand finale, if you will.
Right.
See what I did there?
Yeah, I did. You made a reference to the card Grand Finale, which is your favorite card in the Slay the Spire, which you can hear about soon in our 99.5th episode.
Yeah, it's probably going to be that one. Yeah.
Probably will.
Yeah, thanks for listening.
And if you want to hear Jake again, listen to that 0.5 episode because we're going to bully him to be on it.
Well, he actually wants to talk about that.
No, he actually wants to be.
Unlike Dominion, I don't think he wants to talk about that anymore.
It won't take bullying.
Rip. Poor Jake.
It won't take bullying, rip?
Okay. It won't take bullying, rip. Yeah. I've been to a lot of band concerts because I play the saxophone, right? I mean, I think we're.
But when we're saying concert, we mean like pop or rock or something.
Like T Swift or Weezer.
Sure. Yes. Those
not like the Philharmonic.
Right.
Yeah, I've been to a lot of the Philharmonic style things. That's
you ever been to the Bob Harmonic?
You mean the Boston?
Or the Chad Harmonic? The Mike Harmonic? What's so special about Phil? But anyway,
the Bob Evans Philharmonic Orchestra.